Hello and welcome to our webinar today, Connected Service with Bolt Data and ProntoForms. My name is Mike and I'm the Marketing Program Specialist here at ProntoForms. Before we get started, I just wanted to quickly run through a quick laundry list here. Today's webinar is being recorded and there will be a copy of the webinar sent out to you in the next few days. All of our attendees are in listen-only mode, but if you have any questions at all throughout the webinar, you can ask them using the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll also notice that there's a chat functionality. That's just simply to allow you to provide any commentary throughout the session. While we're at it, how about everybody types in where they're tuning in from here today? Now, the last thing I wanted to cover before introducing our speakers is that if you have any sort of interest in learning more about the value that ProntoForms and Bolt Data can bring to your organization, especially as it pertains to connected service, you'll notice a book a meeting button in the top of your screen. I encourage you to press that at any time throughout the presentation, and that will let us know that you want to learn a little more, and we'll get the right people in touch with you. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers here. Joining us from Bolt Data is Rob Meredith, CEO, and joining him on stage is Mansell Nelson, SVP of Business Development at ProntoForms. Mansell, how about you kick us off here today?
Great, thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for joining us today to hear more connected service with our partner Bolt. I'm Mansell Nelson, and I'm responsible for partnerships at ProntoForms, using Salesforce, Bolt Data, and others. I've been with ProntoForms for about 6 years now, and it's really great to see about the whole story about the field service technician and how we've helped power these folks. I'm really excited today to show to you how the power of IoT field, data collected from devices in the field can impact field service technicians. On that note, Rob, if you'd like to introduce yourself and Bolt Data.
Yeah, thanks. So hi, everyone. My name is Rob, and I am the CEO at Bolt Data. Bolt Data is a Salesforce implementation partner and a SaaS software provider. For the last 10 years, we've been creating smart, tailored Salesforce solutions that kind of solve the most complex business challenges. We'll let others tackle the easy ones. We want to tackle the really hard ones. But we are a full stack Salesforce partner, but we specialize in customer and field service. And we're particularly effective for customers that manage complex assets out in the field, right? So over the years, we've become experts at leveraging IoT and AI to connect smart assets to Salesforce, to analyze that data, and to do really valuable things with that data. So Mansell, thank you for welcoming me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, one of the things we both got to experience recently was going back to Dreamforce after a couple of years, a little scaled back at about 4,000 attendees. I think it was capped at, but for maybe good reason, still seemed pretty busy. It's always great to get the injection, as I say, at what's going on. But, relative to our discussion today, I mean, one of the big takeaways was the whole world of AI and automation that they were featuring a lot of. I've got a product called Genie now. They call it Customer Magic. Those great Salesforce things ties into Customer 360. But one of the events that I attended was, I think it was a Service Cloud event actually, but it was a use case on GE home appliances where, they showed how Salesforce on their platform can manage, the acquisition. So, B2C, the installation, and then the servicing, of that device. And what was interesting is the device was connected. And I think even GE talked about recently updating a series of ovens to air fryers. So, probably a lot more to do than it sounds, but it really got me thinking about, the discussion we were going to have today. So I don't know your sense on Dreamforce and how it relates to this or other things that you saw that impressed you.
Yeah, there was a tremendous focus on things like gathering and analyzing asset utilization and asset performance data for a number of reasons. You can use that throughout the entire business value chain. But what I think was most interesting is in speaking with some of the Salesforce leaders as well as customers that were there, the vast majority of those folks are really prioritized and focused on solving this connected service challenge. And when you start thinking about like what's happening in the market, most companies they've digitized the enterprise, that incredible amount of data, but that's really just the beginning. There's really massive focus on creating and analyzing even more data to better understand, buying patterns and customer behaviors, asset performance, utilization trends, and that really makes sense because what Gartner tells us is that 90%, a really big number, 90% of executives, feel that IoT will enable them to substantially, I think that's the word they use, substantially improve how they deliver products and services over the next 2 years. And then what we understand from manufacturing is that 50% of all industrial assets being manufactured today are IoT ready. These aren't just trends anymore, Mansell. These really are the norms. We're getting ready for this.
No, that's great. And I think, the benefits of ProntoForms is, all this extra data we're collecting as well while out in the field. So it's not just, making the field technician having a better experience, getting the customer resolved quickly, but, how do we now put all this, that we're gathering up along with data that you're getting from these IoT sensors. So on that note, why don't we, dive into what is connected service?
Sure.
And, why don't you guide us through that?
Sure, absolutely. So great first question, which is connected service. I think we've got some slides for this. We can pop up, and I won't talk to the slides. I know PowerPoint's always painful.
Yeah.
We all get the concept of what Industry 4.0 is, and connected service is really Industry 4.0 for service, right? It's, if I had to define it, I think this is a really good definition. Service that's delivered proactively and predictively through analysis, and more importantly, the operationalization of machine data. A lot of times the promise of IoT has failed, where companies will invest massive amounts of money into an IoT solution, but they don't do anything with it. I mean, the number of stories we have from customers who say they've got an IoT solution that suggests asset X is going to fail in 13 days, but that's really just like a light bleeping on a dashboard somewhere else. It's not in the hands of the service people. That value chain isn't extended to the people who actually need that data. So when I think about connected service, it's about connecting smart assets to the business system, not just to the enterprise data lake, because that's not getting it close enough to the business. Being able to remotely monitor and visualize data remotely, being able to analyze that data in the context of the business rules. If you put a business system together, you've done a ton of times building out your requirements, defining rules, and you can't just have an external system like an IoT rule chunking things over the fence. You've got to do it in the right context. And then ultimately, being able to act on that data to do something super important. So I'm going to progress to the next slide real quick. Give me 1 second. There we go. So why is connected service important, right? So this is going to sound obvious, but a monitored machine runs better than an unmonitored machine, right? So companies that improve companies that adopt connected service to improve their asset dependability, they see a 75% reduction in asset failures. That's incredible. Depending upon how critical that machine is, that could be saving lives. And when those 25% of balanced assets actually do fail, the downtime is reduced by 45% on average. And I think that's because the industry is still catching up. Those metrics will actually improve as we go. If it's, people tend to think about this, and I tend to think about it in 3 different ways. The next is around service ease and profitability. Companies that adopt connected service see a 30% reduction in service costs. And that comes from anywhere, and because of the automation, being able to reduce some of the back office service operations tasks, or even like just avoiding truck rolls, because we saw that the asset was working when the customer called, and we could resolve it over the phone in a truck call for something that would have been a no fault found. And last but not least, people who adopt connected service see a 50% reduction in customer complaints, and that's got a really, really good thing for your NPS. So there's lots of reasons why connected service matters. It's how to apply it to your business is where it comes in.
Yeah, and I think just sorry, quickly on that one too, Rob, relative to your last bullet there, this whole world now of employee satisfaction. So using this data, happy employee makes for a great customer experience. So bringing this data to the point of service now, making their much easier to do their work, and that's what people are going to see when we show them these demo videos about how it really comes to life. Yeah,
one thing that people don't talk about enough is technician attrition and the war on talent. And when technicians leave, some of that tribal knowledge goes with them, and they're replacing them with junior folks who don't understand. There's really a kind of a decrease in service capability. And solutions like a connected service capability, it helps because it creates a modern experience that technicians want to be part of, because no technician wants to be thrown into the fire and said, good luck. You want to be given the tools you need. At the same time, because we've codified the service response into the system, we're less dependent upon that knowledge because it's now baked in.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, so last, we're not going to go into how to set this up, but I want to at least show you how it works, because demystifying it a little bit is going to help. But I also want to make sure that we know that connected service is more than just getting an asset, talking to your enterprise data cloud with a little bit of basic analytics and reporting behind it. Because what we know is that customers who have that all say the same thing. They say, hey, great, I know my asset's going to fail in 13 days because some other business system is telling me that. But when I'm in my service system, that doesn't help me. I don't know what that asset was. I don't know what account it was on. I don't understand the content of that failure. When we can extend IoT data directly into the business application that we're using and putting it into the hands of the professionals who need to do something with it, that's when, I think, to me, that's when we're making real value. That's what I would call the last mile of IoT, is when we extend it to the actual professionals that need that to do their job.
Great. So maybe it's time to start bringing this thing to life. We've got three reasonably short videos here, but I think they do a way better job of describing it than a PowerPoint. So
yeah, for sure.
This one is, Rob, you want to describe the first one?
Yeah. So what you see here is a command center view of what a connected install base would look like. So try to imagine Monday morning, you can look at your entire geography of assets that you're managing, understand at a glance what's going on, and then drilling down into a single app and really seeing that asset record come to life with real-time asset data. So that'll be the first thing we take a look at.
Great. Can we roll that?
Hi, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time today to review the demo of Bolt Data Connect. So Bolt Data Connect is built for Service Cloud and field service customers who want to connect, visualize, and automate actions for their assets and IoT data, all from within Salesforce. All right, so jumping over to our IoT console. So this is basically what gives you that 10,000-foot view of your entire asset base. And as you can see, it gives you very intuitive visual indicators of that asset health. Green is good. Over here, we got something in yellow, which lets me know that there's something in alert status. So we can actually, dive into here and start to drive in and say, okay, what's going on with these assets? And give me a quick snapshot view. Is there something I need to respond to? Do I need to call the customer and proactively reach out? Or is this something that is just something to keep an eye on? And so this really gives us the ability to see everything that's going on with our asset base and really kind of quickly respond as needed. So this is great for those service managers and those folks that want to watch those entire assets. We can actually open up this on a customer community as well and actually show the customer just their assets that they're dealing with as well. And so there's a lot of power that we get within this with this console. Okay, jumping over to our asset of the MRI machine. As you can see, this is a typical asset record from Salesforce Field Service with a couple additions along with it. So over here we have our IoT snapshot, which gives us a high-level view of the status, the thing type, what is the key for that specific machine. We also have our thing command. So as long as that asset can accept commands, we are able to actually push commands to that asset right here from Salesforce. So a good example would be if we had a wind turbine and there was too much vibration and the bearings were getting out of whack. We want to shut that down immediately. Instead of having to send someone out or call somebody, we can actually send a shutdown command directly to it to make sure it's safe, to make sure we're saving those parts, and then get a technician out there as quickly as possible to go ahead and fix that. All right, and then we also have added in our IoT tab. So let's take a look at that over here. All right, so here we have our digital twin, which shows the latest IoT values of the whole asset hierarchy. And so we have our parent asset here, which is that MRI machine, but we also have all those child assets that make up that machine. And we can actually see the sensor values for each one of these things, and we can write rules for each one of these child assets independently as we watch them for alerts and conditions like that, or how they interact with each other. And so if an issue happens, we can say, okay, what really is the root issue? And we can look at each one of these individual child assets and see how they're impacting each other. We can also write rules against this entire asset. So there's a lot of power, not only in visualization, but also how we respond and how, what we can check to really triage and remotely diagnose issues through this digital twin. Scrolling down here, we have our thing data. And so this actually gives us, I'm going to pare this down, and it's interactive and you can choose what you want to look at. but it also gives us the ability to live stream that data. And so if you're very familiar with Salesforce, you know you have to refresh, just about any time you want to see something come up. We've actually built this in so that you can see that live data streaming in and get a view of exactly how that is interacting. We can also push this out to the technician so they can see, as they're working on something, as they dial things up, how's the machine responding? Is it going in the right direction? So there's again a lot of power in able to see this, in live data without having to jump into a whole nother system to really understand what's going on.
All right.
Yeah.
So Mansell, first of all, I'm excited to see that. I think it's pretty cool that we can bring live streaming data into an enterprise application like that. What I'll say is that when you know what's going on with your assets, you can make better decisions, and that's the promise of IoT. But when you have like an intuitive dashboard, and analytics at your fingertips that are fully integrated with your business system, those decisions can happen a lot faster and a whole lot easier. So I think that's kind of the magic of bringing IoT into not just a service function, but any function.
Yeah. So great news is you've got all this data. It's available in Salesforce. So what do I do with this thing now? What's the next video?
Yeah, let's take a look, because now we can start looking at a connected solution that fully automates a service response to an asset that's having a problem. So let's just roll the next.
Great.
All right, let's jump back to our asset record and take a look at what happens when something goes wrong. So we have our temperature going on here, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and send this into an alert status based on that temperature. So in just a moment here, we should see a spike in that temperature data. All right, here it is, and you see we just got an alert. Additionally, you can see that we also just got a Slack notification that a new work order has just been created as well. And so you can see kind of that automatic response and what's going on and how we can use all the tools in the ecosystem to go ahead and create that work order. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to go through here and show you up here that not only did we create a work order, but we have multiple work orders, more than 3, within the same 6-month time period. And so if anybody's familiar with some of the compliance and regulatory restrictions and requirements, rather, we're going to go ahead and need to report this using a very specific form and capture that data and report this from a regulatory standpoint and compliance. And so a little bit later on with our partners at ProntoForms, I'm going to show you how we can automatically enter that data into that report and minimize any manual effort and potential human mistakes with that to make sure that we're being very compliant in that reporting. But also we're going to take a look at the technician view of this work order as well with them. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into that work order. And as you can see, typical work order, if we go over here to the related tab, because we know what's going on and because they have more asset data, we can actually make better decisions in the same way that a human would and give that intelligence behind what we would do. So with that temperature going up, we actually went and checked the helium levels. So helium is what's used to keep it down at cryogenic levels. The helium level was just fine, so we know that's not the problem. We don't need to refill the helium. Because we know that we'll need to replace that heat exchanger. And so we're going to go ahead and automatically add that to this work order and get that part in that work order automatically. We've also included an article using Salesforce knowledge. We can add articles that say, okay, here are the temperature errors that you might get, and here's the things that could go wrong with that. So we can add that knowledge to this work order as well to help inform and drive better efficiency for those technicians as they go out. We can also go ahead and take a look at our technicians and not only say, okay, who is skilled and in the area to take care of this, but if this is entitled and it's under an SLA, we need to get someone out there quickly, we can actually say, okay, which of the technicians have that part on their truck already? Let's bubble those up to the top and say those are preferred technicians so we can get them scheduled and out there as quickly as possible.
Again, pretty darn cool. What we just saw is our product called Bolt Data Connect, and it's working with the very standard Salesforce field service solution. But the magic doesn't stop there. Next, we're going to show you how that product then works with ProntoForms to extend the value of form auto population to put $1 trillion into the hands of the technician so much more. So what we've seen so far is our ability to connect an asset to Salesforce. We didn't show it to you, but you have to infer that we created a number of IoT rules that drove that AI and automation of auto-generating the work order, that it understood what was wrong, so it followed the correct service response, not by replacing helium, but by ordering the right replacement part. It picked the right technicians, all instantaneously, all autonomously. And so it ensured that we had the right service response in the context of all the business rules. You also didn't see a check entitlements, but in this case, it was an entitled asset, so it would write the work order rather than creating a case. But it did all the right things. It detected the anomaly and it did the automatic response. And the magic doesn't stop there. I think when we take a look at the next video on how ProntoForms can leverage that IoT data and help us do so much more with it.
Yeah. So for our friends who use ProntoForms today, those that don't, this might get excited about it, but you're going to see my field technician Huberto go out into the field and see the inclusion of both the IoT data come in there to help improve time to repair out there in the field. So why don't we show that video now?
Hi, I'm Huberto from ProntoForms. I will now demo the experience for the field service engineer using ProntoForms. Once I've arrived on site, I review my work order, the one that was automatically generated by the anomaly detected by Bolt Data Connect. I locate the asset and launch ProntoForms to start my service procedure. Business rules in ProntoForms display the workflow that I will need based on the job type and description in the work order. In ProntoForms, I'll fetch the current state of the asset from the digital twin in Bolt Data Connect. I review the data and confirm that there is a problem code and an alerted temperature reading. I now continue with my workflow. To work safely, I need to take precautions related to electrostatic discharge. Once I indicate these steps as completed, sections are unveiled for the systems associated with the alert code. I'll inspect the liquid cooling system. There's no leaks in the coolant hoses. I now take pressure and flow readings. ProntoForms visually alerts me when readings are outside of an optimal range. This helps me avoid errors, prompting me for comments as needed, or I can decide if a new reading is needed. I'll complete this section and move on to the refrigeration system. Everything looks good except the water flow rate. When flow is low, the prescribed action is to swap the water pump. I'm prompted to capture the corrective action and perform a few tests. I describe the action, indicating it's complete, and the issue is resolved, adding an annotated picture of the part replaced. I complete the test in the table. Notice how ProntoForms provides reference video and access to the service manual for support. I'll now go through the end of service checklist. If an item failed at this point, ProntoForms will give me directions on whether I should review any steps. Depending on the asset, a failure at this point could mean the equipment should be removed from service. At this point, I'd like to fetch the current state from the digital twin. The alert is no longer there, and I can now proceed to sign and submit my ProntoForm. I'm now back in the field service app, ready to close my work order. I'm leaving my field engineer role to demonstrate results in Salesforce. I'm back in the work order, where the ProntoForms report has been automatically attached. Note the before and after snapshots of the digital twin, which support the fact that the problem has been resolved, along with the data collected regarding the inspection and resolution of the problem. This should prove sufficient to fulfill compliance requirements of the customer's operation. A copy is also appended to the asset as record of service history. All data flowing in from ProntoForms is being routed into Salesforce objects. Combined with a tool like Tableau, customers can create analytics dashboards and apply AI and machine learning. The service organization can now evidence their excellent performance in minimizing customer equipment downtime.
Thanks, Huberto. That was great to see. But, wonderful to see now how we've taken an error code from an IoT device all the way through to Salesforce, put the problem out in the technician's hand, help him, pinpoint it before he leaves, validate that it's measuring properly back in Salesforce with that green light, not having to go back when it's not working, and, all those kinds of things. So that whole journey now, carrying that out, simply put, and, this is, these are just taking the best of our products today and using them in conjunction together. So this isn't something, we're thinking of going and building or not. And so it's to see it's real, because my take has always been IoT and field service, the platforms have been pretty separate. So I think it's really neat, not just neat, but powerful, solving a real problem, that we bring this together and really solve a lot of the industry problems that are out there today.
Yeah, Mansell, I think the ability to put IoT into the hands of the technicians is similar to putting like patient's vitals in the hands of a doctor, right? Without that concise, accurate patient data, doctors are going to have a real challenge to help out the patient. In this case, when a technician knows exactly what they're up against before they leave the shop in the morning, because they can see it, and they have the right knowledge articles to do the job, they have a much higher probability of servicing that app faster and doing it right first time. I think this is innovation happening right now. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's been talked about for an awfully long time, but great to see it real now. So, hey, just looking at the clock here, really good discussion. Everybody enjoyed it. I'd love to open it up at this point for a couple of questions, if there are any. I don't know, Mike, how do we look on the questions?
From a member of our audience, from Marcella here, we have, how do you create the knowledge for articles?
Well, in our case, it could be done one of two different ways. So if we're because Salesforce has a knowledge management capability that uses some natural language algorithms to look at information, for example, if it has a part name in the description, it can go look that up. So that's how we would do it in the most sophisticated manner. In a lower fidelity, still very cool manner, we could codify particular knowledge articles to asset types. So when a work order is for a particular asset type, it automatically pulls that in and provides it to the technician. So the couple ways to do it, some very sophisticated, some are a little lower fidelity, but all are effective and helpful for the technician.
Yeah, and then on the ProntoForms side, building out a form, and if you want to include some information, about is it a chemical or an action to do with it, easy to integrate that file or link out to get that information and make it readily available for the field technician on site.
And Marcella actually has a follow-up question to that, which is whether all IoT will be compatible.
Yeah, I truly believe it is. It comes down to data source. So as an IoT professional, I have to respect the asset because that's all the context of its operations and how it applies to business. But what's happening between systems is the flow of data. And I don't want to call it widget, but we have this universal machine language translator that sits between an asset that's chatting and our cloud, so that when it comes in, we can kind of harmonize and normalize it in the language of the internet, MQTT or MQTTS, depending upon the requirements. And that allows us to handle them all in a very similar manner from that point forward. So whether or not it's a dishwasher, an MRI machine, a turbine, we can handle that because what it's actually passing us is trajectory data.
That's great. So just looking, I think oh, sorry, do we have another question, Mike, or how are we there?
No, we're good to go there, Mansell.
Well, that was perfect timing because I think we're right on time here. So I wanted to thank everybody for attending today. We'd love to have further discussions. I think Mike mentioned the book a meeting button, which is top right, I believe, on your screen. So book a meeting. Let's talk about it more. I think it's a great opportunity to learn about a great new solution, bringing two technologies together.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a good day.